Welcome to CoMotion Labs Fundamentals for Startups. I'm Ashley Esteban, Associate Director of CoMotion Labs. Fundamentals for Startups is our regular lecture series open to anyone interested in learning about entrepreneurship and startups. Each week, we feature experts from various fields who will bring you insights and inspiration and give you the opportunity to ask questions. All sessions are recorded and archived on CoMotion's website. For our full schedule and future fundamentals, please visit us at bit.ly/CoMotion Fundamentals. CoMotion Labs is a multi-industry incubator program hosting early-stage startups from both inside and outside the UW community. We are committed to nurturing and enabling startup success through critical infrastructure, training, mentoring, and networking. And we do this without taking in any equity or IP. We operate out of 3 locations on campus, each with its own industry focus. We have life sciences and hardware in Fluke Hall and technology here in Startup Hall. If you're a founder looking for somewhere to thrive, we'd love to talk to you. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to mention that for next week's event, Lisa Goldshire, Chief Strategy Officer of ASA, will present on credit union and tech partnerships, applying lessons learned to startup life. Today, John Eddy is here to present Leadership Principle. Does the ends justify the means? John has 25 years of international management experience in telecom industry as a CEO, CTO, board member, and chairman. He brings unique expertise in managing complex operational, regulatory, and organizational and marketing challenges. So I'll now turn it over to John.
Thank you. Well, excellent. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about management and leadership and what I think are some key attributes that lead to excellent results. But before I do that, I think I should talk a little bit about me. What gives me the right and the purpose and the position to have this opinion? In 1994, I was in Seattle, Washington, and I was asked by one of my colleagues if I'd like to move overseas and start a digital mobile network in Malaysia. And I said I'd love to, but I don't have a passport and I don't know where Malaysia is. So that was my start. Over the course of 25 years, I moved to 6 different countries, went through a technical career path, did fairly well at that, had the opportunity to run mobile companies and did that across 3 different countries, and in the end had an opportunity to take a regional role managing 4 companies, Laos, Algeria, Pakistan, and Bangladesh in the end. So if you call that a region, that's half the world. Along the way, multiple cultures, multiple religions, multiple different ways that people grew up. And what I found was people are all the same. The way that they like to be managed and led was common. And I didn't find any failure points in what I'm going to present today, depending on where the employee was from, how they were taught and trained, the culture they came from. They responded roughly the same. I'm going to start with 2 hypotheses right out of the gates, and what I hope by the end of the talk that I can show you that they're no longer hypotheses, that for me, they're absolutes. So, the first one. I'm going to use strong English words because I want to provoke a little bit. So along the way, keep track of these words because you may challenge me at the end. And the first one is the word power. I don't think anyone has any power over someone unless their prime objective is to develop the person. Students in the room, you have that with professors. People that are working outside, you love to work for great people and you're able to suspend your own agenda to follow someone who that will take you to some place that you didn't think you could get on your own. So someone, to me, has legitimate power if their single objective is to develop the person. The second thing is the follow-on. What happens when you do that? The individual or the employee will then go the extra mile for the boss, not the organization. I'll use the University of Washington as an example here. Arguably one of the best universities in the United States. However, there are probably professors that you try to avoid because you don't believe they're the best at what they do, and you choose other professors. The organization is the University of Washington. You're committed to it. but you're picking leaders, professors that you want to get to help you, and you're able to suspend your agenda to work with them. So now, do you believe me or not? So I'm going to use a simple example. In the first case, Anne is using people to achieve targets and tasks. You've heard people say I'm results oriented. I always hit my target. I'm a go-getter. I always achieve. In that case, what's actually happening? Anne is taking from an individual to achieve a result, and the word use comes in. Now, I don't think anyone in the room likes to be used to achieve something. I would argue that many managers today operate in that mode. I think it works to some degree, but over time, the employee is going to get tired. You can't make someone do something over and over again. They're going to choose to either go somewhere else or work with someone who does it in a different way. In the next example, Amir is using tasks and targets to develop people. This is a giving relationship, and it's developing the person. An example, a coach in a professional sport stands on the sidelines and he's watching the scoreboard. He adjusts his plays, he adjusts how he manages his team, he adjusts what he does quarter by quarter by keeping track of the score. But he can't just yell at his players, work harder, run faster, do better. There's something behind that. If he gets beat in the game, he goes back to practice on Monday and adjusts things. We need to practice kickoffs better. We need to work on offense. It's a coaching cycle of working on the people, the individual, and the team to put up more points and hopefully over time continually win. Let's go back to the word power now. What's actually happening here? As I said, Anne is controlling. She's pushing and she's forcing. Over time, can I force you to do something? I really can't, because you can say no, you can quit, you can do passive resistance, you can say yes and smile at me and then not do it. There are many negative outcomes of that type of a relationship. In the end, people actually quit and they go work for someone else. In the bottom, if it's clear, consistent, and honest, the individual believes that they are in a teaching scenario. Now, I can tell you, it worked for me, try this. I did it this way, let's give it a try and we'll get you more resources. We need more tools, I'll help you with that. This is a development cycle where Amir actually has power because you, the employee, are getting better every day. You can refuse to do that, but why would you accept something that you believe to be additive to your experience? This is a perfect professor profile. Great professors, you want to take the class, you want to learn from them, you're pulling everything you can. You would follow that professor off a cliff. So how do you do this in the active workplace? It's easy to see or say. It's easy to go, yeah, I get that, John, but how do you do that in a startup with 3 employees? How do you do it in a company with 3,000 employees? I'm introducing some new words. Empower and means and ability. So the word empower, all right, I'm investing in you, I'm teaching and training you, but what do I do with that? As a manager and a leader, I want to empower you so that you can be self-sufficient, that you can be additive to my company. I use the words means and ability to teach and train now. So, if we wanted to teach someone to be a better fisherman, what would the means be in that case? Hook, line, sinker, a net. All of the things that you need to catch fish And if you're a bad fisherman, explosives. Means is just the raw material to produce. But many of you know, if I have the means, but I don't know what to do with it, I still can't go anywhere. Ability comes in now. The skill, where to find fish, what type of fish should I catch, where's the best market, how do I make money, etc., etc. The combination of means and ability and teaching that to an employee over time will make that employee better. Do you ever have perfect means and perfect ability? Never. You never have everything you need, and you never have all the experience you need to do your tasks. So as a manager and a leader, this is where you sit with an employee to help them get better. And you talk about where their shortcomings are, where the shortcomings of the company are, and what you need to do to improve. So I used feedback sessions. For example, when I was a CEO and I had 10 direct reports, I met those 10 direct reports one-on-one every month for 30 minutes. January was set the targets for the year. February was means. Do we have the raw material for you to do your job with your team? March, do you have the ability? Do I need to teach you, train you, send you to conferences, invest in you more so that you can leverage those means? April went back to how are we doing on the targets? May went to means. June went to ability. And I would cycle throughout the year. Feedback sessions, really brief. Now, when you get to the end of the year, there's no surprises during how did you do. There's no surprises at bonus time, no surprises at should you get a promotion or a raise. We talked about it the whole year. For me, what I found is my employees suspended their agenda to say I'm perfect. I suspended my agenda to criticize, and we developed a mutual understanding on how do we mutually get better together. That worked for me. I don't know if that works when you have 3 employees in your company, but I'm telling you the principles of that are the same whether you have 3 or 3,000 employees. Give it a try. Never let things build to the point that it's difficult to have the discussion. So means and ability. We are working with our employees. We're investing in people because the outcome is to make a better employee. We're having feedback sessions one-on-one. We're talking about means and ability. We have an understanding of where the shortcomings are. And now I'm going to layer up the hardest word, accountability. Now, through my time, specifically in Asia, accountability was the hardest one because it was very difficult for managers and leaders, in their words, to say that the individual was not good enough or needed to improve. That was almost a criticizing element. I said, but you can't think that way. We have all been held accountable our whole lives. As we went through school, we were tested. You got an A, B, C, or D. At home, your parents culturally said this is what's acceptable to be a human being. In Asia, believe me, there are many different levels to this. Grandparents had a say. You are being held accountable day and night, inside and outside the home. So why is it when we graduate from the University of Washington and get our first job, we're kind of just thrown to the wolves? It's a new culture. It's a new set of norms. We're even more uncertain than we were before. You, as a young manager, leader, and CEO of your company, you need to do this more now than ever before because it is completely unknown. And the accountability word is important. You might say, well, it's really hard, John, at 22 years old to tell another 22-year-old he's not good enough. That's not what I'm telling you to do. Tell your colleague how he can be a better person. Tell him where those shortcomings are, and you're mutually going to work on those together to become better. So, accountability. I want to take you to a place that it's what I believe the human DNA and all of us are wired to feel, act, and as a team, how we see managers and leaders when they do or do not hold someone accountable. Pretend that this is a balance. To the right are going to be positive attributes, and to the left, negative. Again, to remind you, we've worked on means, we've worked on ability, we have an agreement between the manager and the leader on what you can be held accountable for. And remember, you can't be held accountable for something where you don't have the raw material to produce. You have to agree what's acceptable delivery targets. So to the far right, if we have an employee that goes the extra mile, really doing great work, what do? You reward. You give bonuses. You give promotions. You give raises. You give extra work. You give them more responsibility. And you give it at a rate just a little bit ahead of what you think that they can handle. That person will continue to even work harder. Now, to get it to that point, you had to have some very difficult discussions around means and ability. It wasn't easy. Then you had to hold them accountable. That wasn't easy. But I'm telling you, if you do this consistently and over time, they will move to that side of the scale because they know what they need to do to be successful. What do you do with someone who's a little bit better than normal? We call it careful. This is actually the bulk of your company in the future. Most of the people sit in this middle area. Well, you recognize them. Hey, great work. Love the way you did that presentation the other day. Hey, you did an awesome job. We hit the targets last month. Really great. Wish you could talk to people about how you did that. Recognition can be open, can be closed, can be one-on-one. Let's move to the left. We have careless employees, not given enough, making mistakes. What do you do with them? You reprimand. You have one-on-one. You have development plans. You talk about why they aren't successful. You give them even more support at this point. You talk about how they can be better, how I can be better. Maybe it's a means issue. Maybe they don't have what they need to do their job. But you start to reprimand. On the far left, you have benevolence. You have people that honestly are just not going to cut it. Some of them are in the wrong job, the wrong company. Some of them just aren't good employees. What do you do with them? You punish. You have 3 months to get on board, or we're going to let you go. If they don't come on board, you have a development plan. And under whatever laws and et cetera, and policies of your company, you might have to let some people go. This is a scale that is happening all the time. I don't care if you have 3 people in your company or 3,000. It's happening all the time. You yourself as a manager are doing something, and your employees are looking at you whether you are or are not doing it. So, this is what happens when you do or do not do. If on the right side you do not reward and you do not recognize, as a manager, what word, if you were my employees, would you use to describe me? He's not generous at all. The guy doesn't say a word. Matter of fact, he takes credit. He's using me. What is the opposite of the word generosity? He's selfish. I'm telling you, after 25 years of doing this, if you do not recognize people, the smallest to the largest thing that they do, in some way, you'll find your way to recognize. If you don't do that, you are seen as being selfish. It's a raw human emotion. Go to the other side. If you don't address people that are not doing what they should, you have no courage to do that. And what's worse is employees say, John, why are you not dealing with Amir? He's not coming to work on time. He's late on his deliverables. He's making the team fail, and you're not addressing it. What the team is saying and looking at me, you have no courage to address the issue. What's the opposite of courage? You're a coward. It's a raw human emotion. On one side, you're selfish. On the other side, you're a coward. And I hate to say it, you know where most managers sit? Right in the middle. They keep the seat warm. Not really doing anything. Once in a while, they'll do something positive. Once in a while, they'll do something on the negative side, but they just keep the seat warm. They're indifferent. Strong words. I just want you to know, kind of think about people that have been influential in your lives, in your careers, and put them on the scale. And what was it that they did that enabled you to suspend your agenda, that you felt you would go the extra mile for, and you wanted to work for? And think about the ones on the left side. What was it that they did or did not do? And I want to come back to that first slide. I believe it's they taught and they trained you. And they tried to make you a better individual. They tried to make you a better employee. They tried to make you a better student. They invested in you with honest intent other than to make you better. The ones on the left side didn't do that. They didn't do it. So, through clear, consistent, and honest intent to develop people, I believe as a manager and a leader, you have power, not in a bad way. You have the ability to unleash opportunity in someone and get the most out of them. If you don't do that, you will never have what I would call legitimate management or leadership power. Before you can hold an employee accountable, they must have the means and ability to do their job. Pushing harder, yelling at them to do more, we missed our targets, are you stupid, is not going to work over time. But working on means and ability at a set rate, whether that's monthly, quarterly, or whatever, you are going to get a better individual and a better team. And holding them accountable is something they've been used to their whole lives. So start to do it consistently. Let them know where they are. If you don't do that, you fall on that scale of being a coward, selfish, or indifferent. You must be in the game all the time. You must be coaching all the time. You must be developing, hiring, working with people all the time. Or pretty soon you're going to find yourself somewhere on that scale. And I don't think anyone wants to be defined by those adjectives. Thank you. I'll open it up to questions. Questions? I used some words there to provoke a little bit.
Hey John, did you learn this on the job, or were you part of a big company that trained managers in this?
Through my career, I found along the way that I was successful. Would you ask it one more time so that our listening audience can hear?
I was just wondering if you learned this on the job, presumably with a bigger company, or were you trained in these methods?
What happened specifically with my career, I was moving along at a rate that was pretty fast. And I didn't know what I was doing technically, but it was working. And then I met a man, a researcher in South Africa, who was hired by the mines in South Africa to figure out why people were getting killed in the mines. Why did some managers live and some die when there was a riot in the mines? So his piece of work came out, I read about it and started to work with him, and he defined the way I was doing it. He let me understand what I was doing in a way that, wow, that's scientific proof. I get that now. So it's a combination of both, but I would say I kind of got quite a ways down the road before I could define it properly. Thanks for the question.
Hey, very nice talk, by the way. So back to the slide of accountability, and I was wondering, how do you define the standard, and also based on the culture or the company, where they located in different countries, they have different culture. How do you scale and define the careless, careful, etc. employee?
Mm-hmm. Accountability is per employee. So let's take a 10-member team. Not everyone has the same level of accountability because they may not have the same ability as a team member. You could have a new hire next to a 5-year veteran. And therefore there's different levels of accountability and what they can deliver. And what I did as a manager and leader, if someone was doing more with less and achieving more than I held them accountable for, that's a promotion candidate. That's someone that we developed more. If I had a senior manager or employee and he was on that careful list, meaning I held him accountable, he hit his numbers all the time, but he just was never doing a bit more, that was probably someone that was in the right job, but their career was being basically slowed down by their, resistance to do more. I think it's a one-on-one per individual. The team then is, what is the team as a whole capable of doing? And remember, you want to surround yourself with different types of team members. Not everyone is the same. They have to fill their gaps. And do it that way. Give that a try. Culturally, never a problem. And I think coming from your part of the world, it tends to be a real problem to sit with a one-on-one or in a one-on-one team building, you need to improve thing. Ooh, I don't want to tell that person that they're not good enough. Well, it's not what you're telling them. You're telling them how to improve. And once you establish that relationship, everyone's the same. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in university. Professor knows that you don't know everything about differential equations, but he hopes by the end of the class, you know it better than when you started.
John, we have a question from the online audience. Elisa wants to know on that point, how do you summon the courage to reprimand despite some fear of harming your relationship with the subordinate?
No, my relationship is one of teaching and training. If I don't, I fail as a teacher. I'll come back to the point I just made. If a professor gives everyone A's in the class and they're doing D work, who benefits out of that? No one. So if you don't, you as a manager and a leader are failing the individual by not having that discussion. Remember, you're not criticizing, you're not attacking. It's never about the person. What are the means and ability, and what can I do to help you? That is a third party, third person activity. You're not attacking the person. How do you make the person better? Come at it from that direction. Ryan? Oh.
Yeah, I wonder what your thoughts are as the team grows beyond, kind of a 2 pizza size, more than a dozen people, and you have to have managers managing managers and sub-teams. How do you keep building this culture and actually having excellence in management across the organization?
Yeah. The example I gave was the 10 people that worked for me when I was a CEO. In those discussions, when we talk about means and ability, I would step through to what are you doing with your 10 people? Do you have the management and leadership skill to leverage the means one step below? And in that dialogue, I was actually coaching them. I'm not hearing the right things. I think you're weak on means. I think you need more money, more time. I think the systems are bad. I think that we have to have better processes. So I would step through one layer. And what I would ask them to do is also, when they have those one-on-ones, step through one layer. That's the best way that I could say to do it, Ryan, but it's part of the expectations of them as a leader. It was never about, did you hit the targets? 2 out of the 3 months per quarter were means and ability. It wasn't about the target itself. What do we need to produce better?
Thank you for your sharing. I know it's very important to train the employee to help them succeed. Like, I was wondering what your tactics to keep the employee after training them well, like they get the good skills, acknowledge, and knowledge. Thank you.
First of all, there's two questions you're asking. The underlying question is, if you train him and teach him too well, he'll leave and go work for someone else. Yeah? Wonderful. I would call that a disciple then. They're going off and they're teaching and training because they were successful. I have many people that work for me that are leading companies all over the world. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of. I love that. If that person is raised, bonused, and moved along in their career within the organization at a rate that's slightly ahead of what they can do, like I said, they won't leave. They won't leave until they top out. When that happens, you've prepared them for a larger job somewhere else. It's okay, because you have this growth engine where you're constantly doing this in the company, and at some point, people are going to spin off. Don't think of that as a negative. Think about that as a great positive.
Another question from online. Ming wants to know, when a careful person would like to be rewarded, not only recognized, how can I motivate them?
I think in the one-on-one sessions, what I would say, first of all, 80% of the company tends to be in this middle. That's your work engine. Not everyone can be the CEO. Not everyone can climb to the top. You need people to actually do tasks, and you need them to do it well. So in this case, you can get in a problem that there isn't enough money, there isn't enough promotion, there aren't enough job titles. People start to top up. What do? This comes back to your question. Sometimes that's where people will spin off at lower levels and go somewhere else because there's just not enough room. And I think, again, I'll respond with the same way. At some point, there isn't enough room to grow everyone to the top. But talk to them about that. Don't let that be a mystery. Don't let them take it as a negative. I think you can say, listen, you're doing pretty good work, but we got a lot of people around here doing great work, and I'm sorry to say, there's 10 people ahead of you. Be honest.
I have another question from online, from Nick. Do you have any advice on how to get a mentor, or knowing that you are having the right mentor, especially in the tech area?
Well, I am a mentor here, so whoever's out there that wants to get some advice from me, I'm here to help. One thing that I can say about CoMotion and working with the university in the last 6 months, I've done this all over the world. I have never seen this much structure to help individuals, not at your level. I think it's pretty interesting what's happening here. And there are a heck of a lot of mentors on our list, and there's a lot more smarter than I am on that list. Actively try to contact them. Get a personal mentor. It doesn't even have to be a business mentor. I still probably talk to 5 or 10 people actively on just pure mentorship. Call me anytime. What can I help you with? Ask. I think most people from a retired, experienced level, they want to get back. Ask.
It seems like a lot of this depends on setting expectations that are accurate and that both sides adopts. Do you have any tips on that?
Expectations have to be mutually understood. If I'm your leader, I'm your CEO, and I say revenue is going to be 100, EBITDA is going to be 50, free cash flow is going to be 30, and you go, no way, not possible. I can try to hold you accountable, but you're not. You don't have the means and ability to deliver that. What I have found is really have good, hard discussions about what's achievable, and a great manager and a leader, he understands how to tweak it just enough to make it hard to reach. And I think that's where you start to pull teams up. It's almost in their grasp. But if it's outside their grasp, people will retreat. I think it's an art, not so much a science. Active involvement, talking about it, I think you'll get a feel for what's possible.
Thanks, John. I was curious, what tools do you suggest as a leader of a small startup where people are wearing many hats to develop or empower the employees or other founders, like instead of giving tasks or targets?
Well, I think everything you do right now, you have deliverables. We're working together, so I kind of have to be careful what I say right now. You have deliverables. You and Michael have deliverables where you need to do something for him and he needs to do something for you. It's really difficult when you're co-founders and there's two of you. But clearly setting expectations and quality of work can eliminate a lot of friction. Maybe it just starts with those little mutual discussions, weeklies, where are we at, what do we need from one another to take a step forward. Those are little bits. It's the same thing, just at a junior scale. And if you start to develop those techniques now, it becomes part of you. When it grows to you actually have employees, it just kind of gets a little easier for you. So that's why I said, my daughter is in a company of 3. She sits at the table and has, calls in front of me. I listen to what that company of 3 is going through. It's the same as 3,000. It really is. And I hear when she gets off, she kind of complains and does things. It's the same water cooler talk we had in a company of 3,000. So it's all the same. It's just where do you focus and where do you put the pressure points? Develop people. Use tasks to see, how are we doing?
You haven't mentioned anything about like inspiration, like the difference between having the ability, and like an employee having the ability, and like being inspired to use it. Do you think about that, or try to set expectations that, like, if you've got people who have tons of capability but aren't like really, using it?
It's what I call it's really icing on the cake. And I happen to work in the mobile business, so I was building phone networks around the world. So I was managing and leading the way that I described. I happened to work for someone who was very similar, so I was inspired, and we were giving hand phones with internet connections to people that had no access to information before. Wow, that's purpose. So in my career, I had all of it come together. Now, if you're a company producing dynamite, it's hard to get inspirational work. It really is. But I use that example because there is. And it was dynamite company said, what do? We blow stuff up. How can that be exciting? How can that be purpose? Well, in South Africa, the company created, we're unleashing wealth. We are unleashing opportunity. We're releasing something. So they did create some inspirational, purpose-driven organization, which they said could help the country, could help workers, could help the common population. So I think even in the hardest companies, you can find inspiration or purpose-driven organization.
Yeah, you mentioned that one of your roles is to be coaching the people that are reporting to you. And what I was wondering is, how do you approach developing the trust with them so they will give you the information from inside that you need to be able to coach them forward?
Mm-hmm. The first meeting is pretty short because there is no trust. Especially, I'm a foreigner coming into Thailand. I sit with my Thai employees. Who are you? We've had 3 CEOs in the last 6 years. There isn't any. So how do I build trust? And it's being consistent, being clear and transparent, and then starting to build that. And it took some time, but not more time than you would think. Because that was between me and you. And when I said, I think you can be better because of these 3 things, later in the week or the month, I would pull them aside and say, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Maybe they would make a step forward or 2 and go, this might be working. Within 2 or 3 of these, it was free game. And Thailand was one of the closed cultures. It's really difficult to do this because they are very protective of themselves. But I didn't find that after 2 or 3 cycles.
How did this framework inform the way that you hired people, and how did that change what you were looking for in them to ensure that you were getting the good employees that would be willing to take your advice and develop underneath your
It's in the questions when I would question. So I'll come at this from a CEO level. When we're hiring below my direct reports, so the reports to my direct reports, I was involved in all those hires. The direct reports, obviously. But the question lists that I would ask him are all about how open are you to be taught and trained? How open are you to teach and train? So I'm looking at receiving and giving. That's where I stayed for that hour discussion. And I would come at it many different ways. If I found the smartest guy in the world was perfect for the job, but he was closed to take feedback and was not committed to make his employees better, that doesn't help me any. It really doesn't. It's like creating a team of experts, like an all-star team. They're not a team. They work as individuals, and I found all-star teams rarely win consistently over time. So I did it with the questionnaires when I hired.
How did you open yourself up to feedback from the people you were leading?
The greatest thing that you can do in those one-on-one sessions is to give a third of the time at the start to the individual. How can I help you? What can I do to be better? Where are my weaknesses? Most leaders don't do that. They feel like I must be strong. I have to project this. I'm in the right spot. I'm the smartest guy. And I'll come back to your question. How can you build this trust? By exposing yourself to weakness. That worked for me. So I would, if nothing was said, I would say, I struggle sometimes in being too direct, too hard, too cold. What would you do to help me? Again, in the Thai context, they're a much softer culture. How can I be more effective within your culture so that I come across in a way that's positive and not negative? So I opened a weakness up, I asked for their help, and that helped me build this trust link. Online?
Another question from Jennifer online. When as a manager you don't think your team member is there yet to get to the next level, what as a manager should you do to ensure the member gets competitive enough?
If they're on the left side of that scale, where they're making mistakes, and you're having means ability discussions, document them. Be very clear on expectation. It's written down. The reason I say that, later if the person goes to the far left, you have a documented issue. So with HR, you've been telling this person the shortcomings and you have a clear exit plan. So that's one way. But again, I come back, most people don't go to that extreme. Once they know where the weaknesses are, it's written down, and the expectations next month or next quarter, they either get on the bus or they take themselves out. So it's rare that I had to fire people once this process starts.
How do you give good compliments and keep them genuine and not dilute them?
It's individual. Again, I'll come back to the 10 people team. I know my team and I know what's important to them. Some people don't like to get recognized publicly. That was a private discussion. That's walking up and saying, you know what, that presentation you gave last week, I learned a lot. That was awesome. And keep on walking. Who doesn't want to get that from their boss? Or it can be someone wants to be formally recognized. Team meeting. I would walk in sometimes, it would be my direct report talking to his direct reports. I'd just walk in and say, Amir, what you did last week, that's the best marketing campaign I've ever seen, and leave the room. That's awesome. Everyone heard it. He feels good. It was appropriate because that's what he would expect. You have to tailor that, and it has to be sincere, and it has to be from the heart, or people will see through it if it's fake. Yeah.
Can you recommend any books that address the topics raised in your talk?
What I can do, I will put the book that best describes what I presented from my friend from South Africa. I'll give that link to you later, and we can put that up. I don't even know if it's sold in the U.S., but he's quite a guy, and it's quite a piece of work.
I wonder if you comment when things get real bad, and kind of like large layoffs, and how do you maintain kind of the trust and honesty you've built? I found most companies are not often very forthcoming. That's usually, you know, everyone involved often says it takes a long time to rebuild that trust, and often it's not very arbitrary. So we just talk about when you do get hard decisions, which especially small organizations are very likely.
Right. That's a tough one, Ryan, because again, I'll come back to a company that I had. We had 6,000 employees, and we had to go to 4,000 over the course of about 2 or 3 years, because we knew that the company and what we had to supply and the talent we needed was changing. So I knew, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 had to go over 2 years. You can't be totally transparent, because then you have panic, and you can't be totally secretive, because then you just violated everything that I said. So what we did in that case, we went through clearly and told everyone that we have an inspiration for the company 2 years out. And we have to get there, which requires different skill sets, different talents, and in some areas, we're not going to do that work anymore. So we're going to work with you over the course of time to either retrain you, replace you, or find something for you over time. We did not be specific on where those areas were, but the management team started to work with people. That's the best I can say given the question you've asked. But I would lean on more honesty in what's going to happen than keeping it secretive, because that's always bad.
How important is culture in an organization in terms of leadership principles when you're dealing with your team members and discussing what the expectations are? So how important a culture plays?
Well, I think culture never violated what I just presented in principle. Principles were the same. I don't have I wouldn't change it. How it's implemented and how we taught it, then that was different. So in Europe, it can be pretty brash. In the Czech Republic, it's like, bop, 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 bop. John said this, therefore we're going to do that, and it was kind of rough. In Thailand, it would be more like, John said that, but I don't know if we can do that here. So I think culture comes in and how do you implement it, and some of the training, the soft training, and how you do it. But the basic principle, culture didn't get in the way.
I'm sorry, I meant to company culture. Not the society or...
I see.
Different countries have a different culture.
Yeah.
Ways of seeing, but company culture.
Well, I think what I'm I guess advocating for is the company culture that I wanted was a learning culture. So if I came into a company that wasn't a learning culture or wasn't HR people oriented, over time I tried to make it that way. So that was a cornerstone. Because I came into many companies that results oriented, people were tired, they ran at targets and were literally beaten, to physically get to targets. They're tired. So I tried to move it to more of a people-oriented culture, and that takes time. Culture's a hard one to move. But again, if the CEO is consistent and the CEO's direct reports are consistent, you can do it. And that's it. If you work for me, you're a people-oriented leader, period. If you're not, you probably are in the wrong company. But that was me.
Were there any pieces of this that you would expose during recruiting that you'd highlight as a way to attract people?
I think this is a U.S. question because there's a lot of fresh recruiting here in some companies. In the companies that I worked in, we at that point in those countries were the largest companies, and we had the pick of the crop, and it was not so much recruiting to draw people in, it was more of how to get the right person. So I didn't have to present this as a marketing tool to get people to apply, because we were already probably the best employer in the country. But I think it could be. Let's change the question a little bit. Do I think it could be? Absolutely. I mean, I would prefer to work for a company that was going to invest in me, and then, to your question, didn't care if I left later. They were just producing the best talent. We all know that company in the 80s. That was GE. That was GE. They were the best training company for leaders and managers. They were spinning off CEOs left, right, and center. Jack Welch built a training center specifically to make his employees better. Now, that might look old school now, but at the time, that's what he did.
John, can you share anything about a mentor who was instrumental in your life?
Yep. It was a very interesting sociologist, psychologist who was sent to take me to lunch one day and say to me, if you don't change starting today, your career with this company is done. You will never advance. That was the opening line at lunch. She basically hit me in the head with a 4x4 and said, you have so much potential, but you need to change these things. And I would say that's kind of the turning point where what I'm presenting came out of being told I wasn't doing that. She's great. She helped me build teams in 3 different countries over the course of 10 years. And when she calls and tells me, I listen.
Yeah, so on that theme of change as you develop as a leader, in startups and a lot of tech firms, it's very common for leaders to begin in the technical side. So they're not at all people-oriented as they begin. What are the challenges that you see those people face as they try to transition from being technically oriented to people-oriented?
I'm a double E. I'm an electrical engineer by training. But I come from a family that wasn't. So a lot of the way I am comes from my father and what he did. So he taught me a lot of these things. So my engineering background coupled with the way I was, I think that transition was easy for me. But I've had a lot of really incredibly smart technical people, and they tend not to be the best managers and leaders. That's okay, because we needed to have smart technical people. If you are that person, then I think you have to start to take some coursework on this. You start to have to get it in your DNA, and you can't fake it. You have to start to believe it. I think it's a little bit more difficult, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. But it's a bit more difficult. But all right, on behalf of all engineers, we're kind of smart people. If we figure that that's the way that it works, then we'll give it a try. So, any final questions? Anything online? Great. Well, thank you very much. It was great talking to you. Bye.
All right, everybody, that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us today, and a big thank you to John for sharing his wisdom and experience with the group. That was really great.
Thanks, everyone.
As a reminder, next Friday at noon, we'll be hearing from Lisa Goldshire, who will present Credit Union Tech Partnerships, Applying Lessons Learned to Startup Life. Sign up for that, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.